someone you all know well. Nick Barnett has been the director of the press office for nearly 2 years now. That means for nearly 2 years, Nick has been dealing with all of you day in, day out. Beyond thanking him for his service, I think that may actually call for beatifying him for all that he has done. But in all seriousness, his service in this role is coming to an end tomorrow as he transitions to his next assignments in the Foreign Service. From the start of this administration, no one has done more than Nick to help revitalize, to help run our daily public affairs operations. He helped get me up to speed. He's continued to work with me every single day to make sure I stay on the right path. That in and of itself is no easy feat. And so just as we bid farewell to Nick and to thank Nick for everything that he has done, I want to welcome Jennifer McCune. Jennifer will assume the role of director of the press office starting on Monday. She joins us from CENTCOM, where she served as the foreign policy advisor to the commander. Prior to that, she served in the office of the vice president as a foreign policy advisor. She served overseas as well, including as our deputy spokesperson in London. And prior to that, as a special assistant to then Deputy Secretary of State Antony Blinken. So she is no stranger to this building. She is no stranger to our operations. She is no stranger to many of you, and I know all of you will enjoy working with her and getting to know her. So again, thank you, Nick. Welcome, Jen. And with that, turn it over to Matt.
Nothing else?
Nothing else.
Okay, well, I'm not quite sure about sainthood for Nick. But,
I don't know, Matt. You were...
He comes close. I mean, the number of times that I called him at 6 a.m. were frequent. But anyway, thank you, Nick, and welcome, Jennifer. I have a couple things. One, just because of the way we are these days, can you fill us in on the Secretary's contacts with the President over the last couple of days, simply because of the COVID diagnosis?
Sure. Let me say a couple things on that. First, the Secretary is tested regularly. He was tested again this morning. You all may have seen him this morning. Of course, the fact that he was here indicates that he tested negative. He feels just...
I didn't see this.
He feels just fine. He was last with the President on Tuesday. It is also the case that the Secretary tested positive for COVID in May. That is within the 90-day window where, according to the CDC, it is unlikely that he would contract COVID due to his combination of immunity from his recent infection as well as the 4 doses of COVID-19 vaccine that he has received over the past 18 months or so. So he will continue to test regularly, but he's feeling well.
He is not, he wasn't in close proximity or was not in close contact with the President.
You heard from the White House press secretary and
no, I didn't.
The White House press secretary. The White House announced that the White House medical unit is doing contact tracing, and that the White House medical unit will be in touch with any close contacts. As of earlier today, I'm not aware that he has been contacted by the White House medical
then
unit.
secondly, and I'm sorry if this is a little bit flip given all the serious nature, but given the fact that the Secretary does have a senior, if honorary, position with the Kennedy Center, I'm going to be very curious to know, hear his explanation as to why it has taken so long for Gladys Knight to be recognized by them. So,
I suspect, Matt.
Please put that to him.
I suspect, Matt, on this, the Secretary will agree with you. Okay, John.
Well, first of all, also wanted to express my thanks to Nick. It's been great working with him on behalf of the association. So we'll miss him, but look forward to working with Jennifer as well. I know you've been asked this before in a different context, but Speaker Pelosi, the President himself, he made some remarks to reporters last night saying that the military has concerns about her visiting Taiwan. She was asked about it today and of course said she didn't have anything to announce. But is that a concern that's shared by the State Department, by US diplomacy, a potential visit to Taiwan by the Speaker?
Well, Don, it's not for me to speak to any potential travel the Speaker may or may not make. In fact, I saw a statement from her office making clear that her office, as a matter of course, does not confirm or deny potential travel before it takes place. So this remains a hypothetical. We'll need to defer to the Speaker's office in the first instance to speak to any plans that they may have. Yes.
So what the president said, is it official stance of this administration? Would you advise Speaker Pelosi against her visit?
I'm not going to be offering any advice from this podium, in part because any potential travel, remains a hypothetical. Whether it is this question or any other question, I have a practice of not entertaining hypotheticals. If and when the Speaker's office, or any other member for that matter, were to announce travel, we'd be in a position to speak to something then, but that day is not today.
But you do have coordination with the with Pentagon and also with the Speaker's office.
Well, we work closely with Congress across the full range of issues. We have policy discussions, we have logistical discussions, we do have discussions about how to best achieve our shared goals. The fact is that Congress is a separate and co-equal branch of government. We ensure that across every issue, Congress is informed of what we're doing, and it is a close and continuing dialogue across all issues of concern.
And just one last thing on Taiwan. Yesterday, the Chinese ambassador to the United States, Qin Gang, he blasted your One China policy. Basically, he's saying that the United States is blurring out the One China policy. What's your response to that?
Our position is that our One China policy continues to be the policy we follow. We are guided, that One China policy, our One China policy, is guided by the Taiwan Relations Act, the 3 joint communiques, and the 6 assurances. Under the rubric of our One China policy, we are committed to maintaining cross-strait peace and stability. We don't have, as you know, diplomatic relations with Taiwan or support Taiwan independence, but we have a robust unofficial relationship as well as an abiding interest in maintaining peace and stability across the Taiwan Strait. Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to get your response to the Ukrainian grain talks. The UN brokered a deal that Turkey says is going to be signed tomorrow. What's your take on the hopes? How hopeful are you that this will resolve the issue? What are you still looking out for, and what needs to be done to make sure that this is followed through?
Well, we would welcome any such agreement. We applaud the hard work of the UN Secretary General. We applaud the diligent work of our Turkish allies. This is something that not only the United States has called for, in fact, Secretary Blinken called for it most recently in the context of the G20 ministerial in Bali earlier this month. It is something that for which we were joined by other members of the G20, other members of the international community. The fact is that to date, Russia has weaponized food during this conflict. They have destroyed agricultural facilities. They prevented millions of tons of Ukrainian grain from getting to those who need it. As I said, we welcome the announcement of this agreement in principle, but what we're focusing on now is holding Russia accountable for implementing this agreement and for enabling Ukrainian grain to get to world markets. It has been far too long that Russia has enacted this blockade. It is a reflection of Russia's wanton disregard for lives and livelihoods, not only in the region, but well beyond, that we even had to reach this point. So what we'll be looking forward to and holding Russia accountable to is the implementation and grain, most importantly, leaving Ukrainian ports.
Can we follow up on that?
Sure.
To what extent was the United States involved in these discussions? Obviously, it was Turkey and Secretary General Guterres. But was the U.S. kept abreast of this? And how much detail do you have on this? Are you sure that's going to be a substantive agreement? How much level of detail does the United States have on it?
Well, this is very early going. Of course, reports have just emerged, but I can say that Throughout these discussions, we have supported the UN Secretary General. We have supported our Turkish allies. We have, of course, supported our Ukrainian partners in their efforts in this as well. We've been briefed by the UN at various stages. Our experts have compared notes and shared notes with their experts. The same goes with our Turkish allies and our Ukrainian partners. Again, we should never have been in this position in the first place. This was a deliberate decision on the part of the Russian Federation to weaponize food. What we have heard within the past couple of hours is a welcome development, but what will really matter is the implementation of this agreement. We, of course, will continue to work with our partners to hold Russia accountable for its implementation. Yes?
There are reports that there's new pressure from Congress for Secretary Blinken to designate Russia a state sponsor of terrorism, and that if he doesn't, Congress is just going to do it themselves. Is the State Department thinking about designating Russia as a state sponsor of terrorism? And is it worried that if it does do that, that there will be drawbacks down the line if it gets to the point of negotiations?
So let me make a couple broad points on this, some of which may well be self-evident. First, it goes without saying, but in all cases, we are obligated to follow the law. And when it comes to the state sponsor of terrorism statute, the criteria against which the secretary must make such a determination, those criteria are, because they're in statute, they are defined by Congress. And so our task is to take the criteria that Congress has written into law and to compare that to the facts on the ground. Whether it's the SST statute or any other authority available to us, that's what we've done throughout the course of this war. That's what we're doing as part of our fulfillment of our pledge, of the pledge that we've made with many of our closest allies and partners around the world to impose massive costs and massive consequences on Russia. There's another relevant data point here, and that is the fact that we have aligned and remained aligned with more than 30 countries across 4 continents on our multilateral sanctions, as well as export controls and other measures. We have additionally curtailed international assistance and foreign aid. In short, the costs that we've imposed on Russia are in line with the consequences of an SST designation. More broadly, we have worked with partners to methodically eject Russia from the international economic order, to deny Moscow the privileges and benefits it once enjoyed. That includes its most favored nation trading status and its borrowing privileges from international financial institutions. We also restricted Russia's ability to access its frozen central bank funds to make debt payments. So all told, these unprecedented set of measures, they're having a drastic impact on Russia's economy and on Russia's financial system. You can look at any number of metrics. Russia's stock market has lost a third of its value. Inflation is rising up to 20%. Russia's GDP is forecasted to decline by some 15%. Russia's imports of goods from around the world could fall by 40%. It was recently reported that due to the pressure of the US and our partners, Russia defaulted on its foreign currency and debt for the first time in quite a while. And just this month, or just within recent weeks, we announced additional actions together with our G7 partners to target Russia's military supply chains, to ban the import of Russian gold, which is Russia's second largest export behind energy, and to explore ways with a price cap to push down the revenue that President Putin is in a position to accrue